Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Shabazz and I will be presenting this presentation on quality function deployment. So let's begin. First off, what is quality function deployment? Quality function deployment is basically a process that's used to provide products based on customers' wants and needs. If you look at the literal definition, let me check. It's basically the process for determining customers' requirements and translating them into attributes that each functional area can understand and act on. So that was just a formal definition. Now, this might seem pretty easy to provide products based on customer wants. After all companies do that, right? This basically means that you are giving the consumers exactly what they want. Now, for example, if I have a smartphone, which I do, it has a lot of added functionality besides the calling functions, such as apps and games, whatnot, and barcode reader. No- Now, I might use that, but someone less technologically literate, such as my grandmother, might not require this all these features. So, if a company wants to cater to that particular segment, such as Nokia with their 108, which can just make calls, they can reduce their costs while being more appealing to consumers. So at the end of the day, consumers are getting exactly what they want. The companies are reducing their costs, they are increasing their sales due to the lower costs, and everybody's happy. So yeah, the this process was originally developed in Japan in 1966 by a Dr. Yoji Ekao. Now, okay, that's just the back history a little bit, and it basically translates the needs of the consumers into product attributes, and basically it just gives customers exactly what they want. So let's look at the four stages of QFD, which are wants, how, design, and test. Now, the first stage involves you gauging the customer's needs. For that, you'll need to define a target market, and then you can gauge the customer's needs by surveys, exploratory research. You could even use secondary data for that, but it's generally not recommended because it might have lost its timeliness. The second stage is how do you translate those needs to a product. So, say for example, there's an arthritis patient, and he has a fair amount of pain in his bones, right? Like in his hand. So he would be more comfortable if there was something that he could basically relieve his pressure on. So to cater to that market, you might need to introduce squishy sides or some other mechanism, such as maybe a spring loading mechanism. You get the picture. As in, how do you translate those needs to a product, and how do you fulfill those needs? The third step is the design, which is how it's designed and fabricated. Now, this might seem pretty, fairly simple, but in actuality, it's the most complicated step because there are a lot of considerations such as the cost as well as the ergonomics and whatnot. And there's something known as the house of quality design, which we'll get to later, which is used in this step. Okay, and the fourth step is the test marketing. Now, you could market your your product to a small representative sample of your actual audience in order to reduce costs and to gauge a response so that you can know what you want to alter before introducing the final product and ensure that it's successful. Okay, so before we move on, I want to elaborate on the house of quality design. Now, the house of quality design is basically a graphical technique which resembles a house, and it correlates the customer's needs with the wants. And for that, there are certain other things that are introduced as well, such as introducing the resources of the particular firm and developing weights on each of those needs, which are called importance ratings. So, say that you're marketing refrigerators. Now, some might want the refrigerator to be small, some might want them to be small as well as be aesthetically appealing. But if your resources allow you to do just one of those things, the importance rating is a very good deciding factor within that criteria, within that scenario. So that's the importance rating. You also introduce your competitors' products in order to gauge how well you're doing against them on an index, and you also determine finally you determine the desirable attributes of your products, because of course you can't put all those attributes that consumers want. There are a variety of consumers even within those target market segments, so you'll need to shortlist that in order to reduce cost. And yeah, that's about it. And a good example of QFD can be the pizza. Now, pizza can contain many ingredients. Some might like them, thin or fat crust, whatever. So each pizza is made according to the specifications of the consumer. Now, if I don't like pineapple and I get one with pineapple, I'll of course be mad. But the pizza company caters to my orders. They don't put pineapple in my pizza. So at the end of the day, they are reducing the cost because pineapples are expensive, right? And yeah, that's QFD, a good example of QFD. Okay, finally, the areas of application. Now, QFD is applied in services such as even the banking sector. For example, portfolio managers, they look at the individual risk appetite of each client and base their portfolios according to them. So, if I have a lower risk appetite, my portfolio manager would, recommend that I get assets and long-term bonds which reduce risk. So, yeah, and they are today being most widely used in Japan by Japanese companies such as Toyota, which is in fact interestingly eliminating the trim setup, basically the trim levels that they had, and now they're introducing you know custom features. So you could log on to a Toyota website for your new car and decide which panel you want, as well as what color you want your interior to be in and what features do you want. So the standardized model is being replaced eventually. And other examples also include Dell, which was the first computer manufacturer, and in fact one of the first businesses to introduce QFD. So you could have models, the same models of laptops with 4 GB of RAM or 1 GB of RAM, or if you're on the higher side, 32 GB of RAM. But yeah, so that's about it, and thank you for watching.